All right, so yesterday we got official body cam footage released from the police execution of Jayland Walker up in Akron, Ohio, which pretty much confirmed what initial reporting was showing, that these cops fired upwards of 90 rounds, with 60 of them connecting at Jayland Walker as he was attempting to flee from them after a routine traffic stop. So here from Common Dreams, we got some of the details, and then I'm going to show you guys a little bit of this clip, mostly just listening to the audio of what it sounds like to hear 8 psychopathic police officers fire 90 rounds at somebody as they are attempting to run away. But obviously, you know, trigger warning, this is going to be some pretty heavy stuff. But here from Common Dreams, Julia Conley, she says, hundreds march in Akron enraged by police killing of Jayland Walker. And they say the police can do whatever they want, said one local resident through tears. They can take our children's lives and think it's okay. So a little bit of details here. They say hundreds of people in Akron, Ohio gathered outside the police department's headquarters and marched through the city late Sunday, demanding justice for Jayland Walker after police footage was released showing that the 25-year-old black man had been fatally shot from behind at least 60 times by officers as he tried to flee from a traffic stop on June 27th. 60 times. Okay, I want you to think about, you know, what type of mindset it takes to fire 60 rounds at somebody as they are attempting to flee away over something completely minor. Okay, he wasn't going around murdering a bunch of people. This was literally after a routine traffic stop. And so they continue here saying, according to local news outlet YKYC, or WKYC, police officers deployed a dozen canisters of tear gas on the protesters after some knocked down barriers that were outside the police headquarters, and the response shook Reverend R. Stacy Jenkins, a pastor at the House of Prayer for All People who joined the protests, and told the Akron Beacon Journal that the body cam footage showed no evidence of the police trying to peacefully de-escalate the confrontation with Walker. And they say the police department appeared to double down on defending the officers' actions by responding to the community outcry with force, Jenkins suggested. And you can see here, you have literal riot police standing outside waiting for people who would dare to speak up about the fact that you just murdered somebody, straight up executed them by firing 60 rounds at them while they were trying to run away, basically. But again, this is the hyper militarized police state that we live under right now. But they continue saying Walker's killing sparked protests and demands for the release of the body cam footage last week, as the community learned that he had been killed after officers chased Walker during an investigation of an unspecified traffic violation, as the Washington Post reported. And police claim Walker had fired a gun from his car, but his family disputes the claim, and Walker was reportedly unarmed when he left his vehicle and was chased on foot by the officers. So they have, no evidence that we know of right now that there was a gun at all, but certainly there wasn't a gun when he was attempting to run away through basically an open parking lot, and the police officers just randomly decided to open fire. But finally, they say 8 officers were involved in the chase, which ended with the police firing about 90 rounds and shooting Walker 60 times, according to an autopsy report. Just absolutely unimaginable cruelty here from the U.S. police force. But here we have the actual clip of the shooting. So again, I'm not sure if YouTube would even allow me to play the actual footage of this, so I'll link it down below if you want to pause the video and go check it out for yourself. But I think the audio really does suffice just to hear the sheer amount of bullets that were fired. But basically, just to set the scene, he's in his car right here, and he pulls over to the side, gets out of the passenger side door, proceeds to run across basically this open parking lot here. Police try to chase him. They, I think, fired off a couple of tasers, which missed, and then they just randomly decide to open fire on him and obviously kill him. So let's go ahead and listen to the audio from this.
Put your hands up! Stop the car! Get the fuck!
Right, so, I mean, again, just absolute psychopath shit. I don't know what else to even say about that. Obviously, no person, regardless of whether or not they had a gun on them, regardless of what the situation is, firing 90 rounds at somebody who is like 10, 15 yards away from you, just absolute psychopath shit. And they even, after they killed him on scene, obviously I'm assuming that he died immediately, being shot 60 times, but on top of that, they went up to him afterwards, pretended to give medical aid, and handcuffed him. Okay, they handcuffed him after firing 60 rounds into him. Okay, just complete and utter brutality here from the Akron police force. Now, will there be any accountability for this? Obviously, we live in the United States, so it's the rarest of occurrences that there is ever any accountability on this, but I'm assuming that there's going to be some form of an investigation, a lawsuit that's brought, so we'll have to keep up with some of the details on that. But just in terms of how this plays into the broader role of the police here in the United States right now, this is nothing, unfortunately, that is out of the ordinary. This is completely normal here in the United States, or not normal, but is very commonplace here in the United States. And in fact, as pointed out here by Samuel, he says, police are on track to kill more people this year than last year. And last year, police killed 1,139 people, one of the worst years on record. And this was after the police said that they enacted reforms and reimagined public safety following the murder of George Floyd. And we know that this is complete and utter bullshit. I mean, we had the single largest civil rights protests, anti-police protests in U.S. history. And what did we get from it? We basically just got more inflated police budgets, more militarized police forces, and a reactionary pushback to a movement that actually had substantive grounds to it. Because listen, if you want to just cut down to the basics of this and how crime relates to policing, if police numbers, police budgets, police weaponry and equipment correlated to lower crime, then the United States would be by far the safest country. We would have the lowest crime rate in the entire world. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have that because there is no real correlation between increasing police budgets or increasing the amount of police with lowering crime. If you actually wanted to lower crime in this country, you would invest from the bottom up. You would put money into a lot of these disadvantaged communities. You would invest in education, in healthcare, in jobs programs, etc. So obviously crime is much more correlated to people's material conditions than it is to the amount of police that you have. But nonetheless, we live in a country where both parties, Democrats and Republicans, are running on ramping up these police budgets beyond the already ridiculous place that they're in right now. And to get a little bit more specific with a recent example that we've been covering on this channel from Uvalde, Texas, in the wake of that mass shooting at Robb Elementary School, where I think it was 19 children ended up being killed by a single person with an AR-15 as police officers basically just stood outside the classroom and let it happen. We just got this news that just came out recently. After Uvalde shooting, Texas leaders will spend more than $100 million on school safety and mental health. So getting into the details of this make it even worse than it seems right here at the top. Obviously, if this was something that was substantially investing in mental health in this country, that would be great. But where is this money actually being allocated? Well, here you go. Nearly half of the money, $50 million, half of the money they are putting towards this project of preventing school shootings in Texas. Half of it, $50 million, is going towards bullet-resistant shields for school police officers. Bullet-resistant shields. Okay, this is coming out after we just learned in a video that I covered last week on this channel that within 3 minutes of the shooter going into that classroom where he massacred these children at Robb Elementary School, within 3 minutes of him going into that classroom, police were standing outside with bullet-resistant shields. Okay, so to pretend as if this is a solution to anything, to literally any problem right now in regards to school shootings, in regard to violence and crime in the United States, is an absolute fucking joke. They are literally just using this as an opportunity to give more power, more control, more weaponry to the police departments within these already inflated budgets that they have right now. But just a complete fucking joke. Half of the money that is going towards supposed school safety and mental health is going towards bullet-resistant shields that they already fucking have. I mean, they already had them on scene at the time. The problem was 100% the cowardice of those police on scene who prioritized their own lives over the lives of innocent school children. So it wasn't a problem of a lack of bullet-resistant shields, you absolute fucking ghouls. But the second largest expenditure, as they point out here, $17 million, is for school districts to buy silent panic alert technology, which allows them to alert law enforcement during these emergencies. So again, something which would not have helped in the Robb Elementary School shooting because the police were there almost immediately on scene and still chose to wait over an hour before actually going in and confronting the shooter. So already you have literally a majority of this money, almost 70% of this money, is going towards completely ridiculous policies that were already basically put in place and available to the police officers that were responding at the time. But again, just shows you how the answer to any of these types of situations is always going to be giving more power, more weaponry, more control to the police departments, regardless of where the actual failures were. And a laughable, I mean, they're giving $100 million to this project of supposed school safety and public health and mental health efforts, and the mental health efforts include less than $6 million to expand telemedicine for children and less than $5 million to increase the use of treatment. So they're spending what? You have, let's say, $10 million here going towards actual mental health programs. You have 5 times that alone being spent on bullet-resistant shields. What the fuck? I mean, what the fuck are we doing in this country? It's a complete fucking joke, and they're literally laughing in your face. I mean, completely ridiculous. And this is also coming from Uvalde School District or Uvalde County District, where 40% of their budget was already going to the police, and they completely failed in this instance to actually do their jobs and save those kids' lives. But 40% already going to their budget, and they want to throw even more money at these completely dysfunctional criminal police departments around the country. And this isn't anything new. This is all across the United States. Even though we had the largest civil rights protests in American history, we had demands for defunding the police and reallocating those resources towards more effective community investments and programs. Instead of doing that, we have record police budgets all around the country. So here from Slate News, with a little bit of a perspective on that, they say this growth in federal spending would follow similar increases in U.S. cities. Despite calls in 2020 to defund the police, most U.S. cities increased the percentage of their police budget devoted to policing in 2021. And officials in Washington, Denver, LA have all expanded or are proposing to expand their police budgets. Even Austin, Texas, one of the few cities to dramatically cut spending in response to the BLM protests, has restored its police budget and then some, growing its law enforcement spending 35% to a record $442 million this year. So again, I mean, listen, I don't know what else to even say about the current state of policing here in the United States. They are effectively, as I've described them before, a state-sanctioned gang. That's basically how they operate, with a license to kill from the government, and they act with complete impunity, and they act with a psychopathic mindset. I mean, I don't know how else you could describe what we just witnessed there other than an execution, because, you know, he's running away. It was after a routine traffic stop. Even if he is running away, then fine. It's a fucking routine traffic stop. He's not posing a threat to the general public. He's not posing a threat to the lives of the police officers, and you have 8 of them who are choosing to get out of their car, charge him down the street in an open parking lot where they really should have been able to get him if they wanted to and actually put in the time to doing that. But instead of doing any of that, they just choose to open fire on him from behind and end up shooting him 60 goddamn times. So, you know, again, I don't really know what else to say about this subject that I haven't already said, other than we absolutely have to slash our bloated military budget and police budget. We need to stop the transfer of military-grade hardware to our police departments around the United States, and we need to actually reinvest in the American people from the bottom up. I mean, that's the only solution to you know, this problem with policing, this problem with poverty here in the United States. You can't tell me that 40% of a Uvalde budget going towards the police is effective for that community. Clearly, it's not effective in actually stopping or preventing violence, and on top of that, you are siphoning resources out of communities all across the country, cities all across the country, into these completely ineffectual and ineffective police budgets that are not doing anything for public safety and are an active threat to millions and millions of minority communities here in the United States.